Thank you for joining us. My name is Simon Hosanna. I'm a client development director at Autotrader, and I am honored again to be your host for today's event. Autotrader are excited to support Black leaders and to continue to work closely with both Black leaders and inclusive companies to enhance our learning around diversity and inclusion. For those of you that don't know, Black Leaders was founded last year after the shocking death of George Floyd sparked protests all over the UK and a national debate over Britain's history. Black Leaders is made up of an amazing group of volunteers who have been working incredibly hard during this time to help drive Black inclusion and to challenge inequalities within our communities and working environment. Black Inclusion Week, held on the 10th of May, will look to not only create tangible change and set a course for a better, more inclusive future, but it will also celebrate Black people and be a reminder of the importance of embedding a fair and just society for all. Now, today's event is all about connecting, collaborating, and challenging, and you can expect to hear from some incredible speakers who will be answering important questions, which will include: what is Black Inclusion Week? Why is it important? And I guess this is the most important part, how can you get involved? In addition to our keynote speakers, we'll be holding a powerful panel session, which will take place with leaders and allies from the movement who will be tackling vital topics such as why we are focusing on the Black experience and not just race, how to keep the conversation going, and delving into the Black Inclusion Week theme, which is Be the Change. So I'm guessing, living in the times that we are currently living in, that many of you, most of you, will be familiar with Zoom by now, because that's the way we communicate, right? But for those of you that are not and are new to virtual events, it's so important because we want you to be as involved as much as possible. I've already started seeing some questions and comments coming through. So below you will see a chat box and a Q&A box. You can actually use these throughout the webinar. So there's no specific time, just use it whenever. If you've got a question, you've got a point that you want raised, please do just put it into the Q&A box below, as you'll be able to see. Now, throughout this webinar, we will either respond through the text box, we'll either answer your questions live, if time permits, of course, or we will connect with you afterwards. But I want to stress, it's so important that we want to hear your views, we want to hear your responses. So I know that we've got so many people, and we're delighted to have so many people joining us today. So we want you to get social media buzzing by highlighting the conversations taking place at Black Leaders Net. So please use at Black Leaders Net and the hashtag Black Inclusion Week. I'm now going to kick off the momentum by introducing our first speaker, a passionate D&I advocate who has developed successful corporate diversity initiatives to a host of recognized brands. To tell you more and to kick off what we are doing here about Black Inclusion Week, please do give a very warm welcome to our first guest, Cecilia Mutuma Wibo. Cecilia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you for the great introduction. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, Simon. So thank you for that great introduction. So Black Inclusion Week this year, the first inaugural event will be launched on the 10th of May and will be for the week until the 16th. And as Simon has said, the topic will be the Change. So I'm just going to talk a bit about, I guess, what Black Inclusion Week is. So it is an observance event where we're trying to raise the awareness of the importance of Black inclusion and also create a platform to enable change and true equality for people of African and Caribbean descent. And in terms of, I guess, what we're trying to do is we're trying to celebrate some of our great achievements that we have contributed to the society in the UK and will continue to contribute. And why is Black Inclusion Week important? I think one of the key things is that we must not forget the challenges that Black people face, and we must continually discuss these challenges and work together to find a greater inclusion for everyone. And I think, as Simon mentioned, we have seen a great momentum, great movement as part of Black Lives Matter following the death of George Floyd last summer. But some of us are seeing things starting to peter off a little bit. So we do need to kind of keep the momentum going, keep the conversations going. That will just enable the change. Secondly, also there is a desire to understand and learn and change in so many people that are not part of the Black community, that are allies from different parts of the society in the UK. So I think what we're trying to do in Black Inclusion is trying to facilitate this learning and understanding, sharing of experiences, and then encouraging people to reflect and then also take action towards inclusion. So we're talking about it, but we're also encouraging that we take action and move us on the journey forward to inclusion. And lastly, we're just trying to, through Black Inclusion Week, address and unearth all the barriers that Black people encounter and have a prolonged focus to build momentum, deliver the changes that will make a difference and eradicate any barriers that exist. I'm not going to talk about what Black Inclusion Week will do. We'll aim in terms of our objectives, what we're expected to deliver and hope it will deliver. So Black Inclusion Week will make us stronger as one community. That's the Black community. We're working together to support each other, to collaborate, build strength, and also together we can heal, and also together so we can rise and soar as a community. Secondly, to empower all and facilitate action. And that's to increase the awareness, education, using through tools and resources to enable allies as individuals, but also as organizations to make tangible change and progress to Black inclusion. And my colleague Jennifer later on in the webinar will be able to kind of talk you through about some of the tools that we are creating that will help and enable this. Thirdly, is to celebrate Black people in the UK. This is to amplify Black voices across the UK, such as that of Marcus Rashford and his food drive that he done for school meals, and celebrate all the achievements and the impact that we've had in the past, but also that we'll continue to have in Britain. So we want it to be something that's a celebration as well as learning and growing as a community. Fourth, Black Inclusion Week will also create a commitment towards change. So this is to encourage every one of us to join in being the change, hashtag being the change, by taking action and committed to taking action to eradicate racism and foster Black inclusion. So we look forward to all of you on the call, sharing with your colleagues and people in your society to kind of talk about what it is that you're doing to be the change to help eradicate racism. Black Inclusion Week, finally, will connect us through collaboration. So partnering and collaborating with individuals, organizations, communities, and our allies who are ready and committed for change. So I think this is a great opportunity for us all to come together to tackle this problem and to make this world more of a fair and just society. So if we, talk about the theme of this year's Black Inclusion Week, which is Be the Change. I just wanted to kind of start off with a quote from Martin Luther King. He says, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And I think most of us can say that we want to live in a fair and just society. And if we're saying that that's what we're all trying to achieve, if there's any part of our society that there is injustice, by us not trying to tackle that and deal with that, that kind of is a threat to the justice for everybody. So I think anyone who's a justice seeker around the world would want to kind of tackle any injustice as it comes up. And this is what we're talking about in terms of be the change. So change starts with you, every one of us, everyone on this call, everyone in the society in the UK. We all play a part, each and every one of us. We can all choose to be the change and choose to challenge collaborate, and communicate. And what we mean by that, if I start with on the right-hand side, the top bit of the triangle is to challenge. And what we mean is to constructively challenge, speak up, have an open two-way dialogue with your colleagues and people that you've seen in society. Put your hand up and say, actually, that doesn't sound right. Is that appropriate? Can we talk about it? But also talk in a way that you're trying to learn and share knowledge, and listen in a way that you're trying to understand and grow, and not to be defensive, but trying to kind of learn and grow. And then if we go to the right-hand side, where we talk about collaborating, by speaking up and talking about injustices as we see them or inappropriate behaviors, we're actually, opening the door for a dialogue for people to come and collaborate and work with us, and working with others' voices in terms of allies in the organization, in our communities, and actually amplify our voices for change to say, we need to kind of garner that support, that energy to come together and speak louder to kind of make change. And then in the bottom part of the triangle, which is to communicate, use your voice. So share your knowledge, share lessons learned with others to encourage them for continuous growth. And this will give somebody else the tools, the confidence, and the understanding to also then challenge and then start the virtuous cycle over again. And I think it's something to be clear that it's not something that you just do once and you tick off a list. It's something that's continuous, a virtuous cycle, and challenge, collaborate, communicate. That's how we can, I guess, make meaningful change and move us on the journey to inclusion for everybody.
Cecilia, sorry, can I just say, just before you move on, the display settings on the top, could you change it because we can see your notes?
Oh.
So if you see at the top when it says display settings, I think you're in presenters mode at the moment. So I'm just swap presenter with slideshow. Yeah, I think.
It's not allowing me to do that.
Oh, I'm not sure. Okay, just carry on if you need to, but.
Okay, sorry. Thank you for
okay,
that,
no
Paul.
problem.
Let me do it this way, maybe. There we go. Is that better?
Fantastic. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so in terms of Black Inclusion Week, I just want to take a moment to shout out and thank all our partners and our sponsors. So we've got Nielsen, Auto Trader, Hastings, the Kalika Group, and the Open University, some of who are actually also will be presenting and staging some Black Inclusion Week events during May. So fantastic. We really look forward to hearing about those. So thank you for all your support, and many of who are probably on this call today as well. Just taking some time to kind of say thank you to them for their continued support. And just to say, in terms of people who signed up to the Black Inclusion Week event, we have almost 400 people signed up so far, individuals. Some of the organizations here are people who signed up. So it's a good mixture of people from different industries, different organizations, public and private sector, but also individuals from the community who signed up. But please share the word, encourage people to sign on and get involved, and understand that some of these people who are shown here as well are actually also hosting some of their own events during Black Inclusion Week. So it'd be great to kind of hear more about that and share that through social media, about what people are doing and what events they're holding as well. And like I said previously, my colleague Jennifer will be going through later on after the panel discussion to talk through about how you can get involved, some ideas, some suggestions that will kind of help you be involved in Black Inclusion Week. So that kind of brings my slides to close, and I'll hand over to Simon for the panel discussion.
Thank you very much indeed, Cecilia, and bang on time as well. That never happens. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, and also thank you to the voice of God as well, Paul Cisse coming in there as well. That was a brilliant introduction, Cecilia. So thank you very much indeed. You've got us all excited and wanting to know more about it. So we've already had lots of questions that have coming in, and chat box is on fire at the moment. So thank you to everybody who's contributed, and it's so good to see everybody who's joined us from all across the country. We've got people from everywhere, from Wiltshire, London, Bristol, Lancashire. It's so good to see everybody joining us this morning. just to clarify as well, there was a question that was asked as well. The theme is indeed be the change, and we'll be talking more about that and how you indeed can be the change. So, as Cecilia already mentioned, next up, it is great because we have the panel section, and the people featuring on this panel have shown exceptional commitment to Black inclusion, all contributing in very different ways, as you will see. So this morning we will focus on why is Black Inclusion Week important? And our panel will delve into what it means to them. So as our conversation plays out, again, just keep on popping your questions in the chat box. And if we do have time, we'll try and integrate these into discussions. But without further ado, joining me this morning, it is my pleasure to introduce Paul Dehaney, Aggie Mutuma, Ife Onzulike, and Paul Walker. And as if on cue, they've all put on their cameras. It's as though we've rehearsed it. Good morning to you all. So we're going to get straight into it. What I'll ask you to do now, please, is if you could briefly introduce yourselves and who you work for, and then in broad terms, because we'll dig into it a bit later on, explain why Black Inclusion Week is important. So we will start with Paul. Paul Dehaney, please.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for this invite to take part in this panel. Really excited to be here and represent our organisation. So my name is Paul Dehaney. I'm the artistic director for an organisation called Africa Oye, which is a music festival that's been running since the early 90s. I've actually been working with the organisation since 1999. I moved to Liverpool from London in 99, started working as a trainee, and I've literally done every single job from giving out the flyers to booking bands to, nobody can ever tell me anything about festivals because I've done every single job you can do in a festival. So none of my staff can say to me, I can't do that because I've done it before myself. So Africa Oye is a free, fully inclusive 2-day international music festival which takes place in a place called Sefton Park in Liverpool in June each year. And it provides a platform and showcase for African, Caribbean and artists from the wider diaspora. And of course supported by UK bands and local artists. We also have around 100 food and arts traders, local community groups and DJ tents. And Oye was really created to showcase the positive things that come out of Africa. When I joined the organisation, the only things I heard about Africa in this country were around poverty, disease, famine and war. So we chose to change that narrative and celebrate the positive stories like the music, the food, the fashion, and try to educate people through music. Oye is funded by Arts Council England, Liverpool City Council, and we also bring in a hell of a lot of funding ourselves through self-generated income. Throughout our 28-year journey, Africa Oye has grown from a small series of gigs to Liverpool City Centre to become one of the most popular summer festivals in the UK, attracting thousands of visitors, not just from Liverpool, but from the Northwest and the rest of the nation and also overseas. And although the principal of the activity of the charity is to promote, concerts and festivals, to celebrate the heritage of music of Africa, we do so much more. We've produced a number of national tours. We host learning and participation projects, workshops for people of all ages. We produce radio shows and we're even producing podcasts during this digital times. Basically, we're a Black-led organisation who prides itself on being fully inclusive, whether it's through our programming, staffing, audience development, or the projects that we produce. So that's what we do.
Thank you, Paul. And we're going to find out more about your organisation. People are already asking questions about that as well. So I'll come back to you on that. Aggie, why is it important to you? Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to everyone. It's so awesome to see people from the length and breadth of the UK, so welcome to everyone. So I'm Aggie Mutuma. I am an inclusion director and I own and run Mahogany Inclusion Partners. As the name suggests, I support organisations as they take their journeys towards being more inclusive and open and encouraging environments. So in terms of Black Inclusion Week, to answer your question, Simon, why it's important, I think for all the reasons that Cecilia has just beautifully spoken to us about. We have to continue the conversation. It's beautiful that we've been talking about this so much, so we need to carry on the conversation and not forget. We need to connect and collaborate, you know, as Black people, as a community, absolutely also connecting with our allies, because there are so many allies who want to support and want to go on the journey with us and support their organizations as well. And then there are so many other reasons, but I'll stop now, but because it'll come out in the panel discussion, I am sure. Just a very quick note to people sending messages in the chat. Just make sure you've got all panelists and all attendees, because I can see some people being really helpful in answering questions that people have asked, but they're only sending the answers to the panelists. So that means the attendees won't see. So just make sure the option says all attendees and panelists, unless of course it's just for us panelists, but really pleased to be here.
Thank you for that, Aggie. Ife, over to you, please. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Simon. And hi, everyone. So my name is Ife Owunzulike, and I am the head of D&I at the CBI. Part of my role looks at, involves chairing our mental health forum, chairing our diversity and inclusion steering group, but also chairing our disability and neurodivergent forum as well. I'm really keen to work across all parts of diversity, but especially on race, on ethnicity, and also, as this session is, on Black inclusion, and really thinking about what organizations are doing. And part of my work also links to the CBI's Change the Race Ratio campaign that focuses on accelerating the representation of Black and minority ethnic groups and within the organization from starter to board level. So I'm very keen to see how businesses can do that. And I work very closely with them on just getting them to start the conversation, getting them to feel more comfortable. And that's why Black inclusion is really important. For many years, and when I've done a lot of training, people are even scared of saying the word Black as if it's some kind of scary word. And when we start to normalize these conversations and really challenge people to think about how they can be more inclusive in their conversation, get greater learning and understanding, and not just leave it to the people that they're trying to engage with to teach them. It's really important that we all are part of this learning journey together. And I'll stop there.
Oh, that's brilliant, Ife, and it's really good to have the CBI on board with this as well. So thank you for being here this morning. And last but certainly not least, Paul Walker. Good morning.
Morning, thank you, Simon. I'm far less interesting than my fellow panelists. So
I'm not having that, Paul. I'm not having that at all.
I'm Chief Commercial Officer at a company called Consumer Intelligence. We're insight partners in financial services, and we aim to inspire confident decisions that build consumer trust, and that's very important in financial services today and for the future. Really, I'm here to help others grow. I'm really interested in trusting, inclusive and accountable organizations. My background is in leadership in numerous businesses and numerous countries. And I first became aware of what we're doing here through my previous company, which is Nielsen, one of the sponsors. And so I brought that back into the organization I've joined, and I'm really happy to be here today. Black Inclusion Week is simply important for me because it's a chance for a widening of experiences, and I'm going to talk a little bit to that as an ally as we go through the panel session, I hope. Thanks.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Paul. And trust me, your voice is as important as anybody's here as well. So again, we're delighted to have you on the panel. And in fact, I'm going to come right back to you because I want to delve a bit deeper into the different areas that you all work in or that you are representing today, and find out a bit more about why it's important. So as an ally, because we all know how important allies are in what we are trying to do. As an ally, can you just give us a bit more on why you think the conversation is so important to you?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, being an ally for me is about using the privilege that I've just got, right? I didn't ask or choose or get to it. I've got privilege. I know I have been aware of that and helping promote the voice of Black people in organizations and be as loud as I can. By being involved in the work that Black Leaders UK does, I've been shown that I don't need to be a Black person to support Black people. And it's not enough just to do no harm. And I think a lot of people who are not allies or don't know how to become an ally do feel that way. And I want to encourage more people to think similar. As an ally, I have to educate myself to understand the problems and then do something. So I talked about widening my experience to find new people, to find new ways to get closer to the issues facing Black people, particularly in the workplace for me today. And I've seen firsthand the benefits of a diverse workforce. And conversations like these expand peripheral vision, that they help me and see a lot more. When I introduced the concept that I'd be here today to the new company I've joined, I received immediate and unqualified unconditional support, which was so pleasing. I've been with Consumer Intelligence for less than 3 months. And this is why Black Inclusion Week's important for me. It shouldn't require an event. You know, it's not an event, but it helps bring attention to the issues and barriers faced by Black people every day in the UK. So as an ally, you know, I want to do my best. And I said on LinkedIn to stand on the shoulders of giants, because I think there are voices that just don't get heard. And I think that's part of my job.
You know what? All I'm going to say to you is afterwards, go and have a look at the chat, because the love that you are receiving at the moment in the chat is phenomenal. So yeah, so many things that we could touch on there, and hopefully we're going to have some time about that. But again, thank you for being an ally, and thank you for your inspiring words. If I mentioned that it's good to have someone from the CBI here, and you touched upon it, but could you just give us a bit more explanation as to why this conversation is so important to the CBI and businesses?
Thank you, Simon. Well, there are many reasons why. Obviously, looking back at the last year, I think for many people, the killing of George Floyd was like an awakening to the fact that racism existed. But I think what was interesting to observe was that people were still not understanding that whilst racism and the issues faced cut across many demographics within the ethnicity strands, there was the Black aspect of it, and the people that are Black and what they felt by the impact of what's happened. This was a Black man that was killed. And I saw many organizations put up statements at the time saying, you know, they stand with this. We saw so many campaigns on social media, pull up for change, everything like that. And for us as an organization, especially for me, my role as a Black woman working for the CBI, it was about, okay, so where do we go from here? What do we then do? How are we actually going to have meaningful change? What is the dialogue? How are people learning? Where are we going to challenge inequalities? How are you as leaders going to stick your head above the water and really use your voice as allies to say, as a business community, as leaders, we need to do more, especially for our Black colleagues? And I saw that the CBI, we launched the Change the Race Ratio campaign that does cover race and ethnicity, but there is also a point around touches on the Black agenda and making sure organizations can do more. And that's why I was really keen to work with the Black leaders in this conversation, because it's so important. We've heard so many things about the changes that people need to be doing, and I've seen some conversations stall because people think, oh, it's lost momentum, but actually it hasn't. And I keep on saying to business leaders that don't wait for the next thing to come on this agenda before you start to make the change. Be proactive in the conversation. So for us at the CBI, my role is cut across many areas. It's the internal piece. I say to everyone, and part of the campaign that we run with Change the Race Ratio is reporting on your data. Why don't you want to see your data? Why don't you want to drop down into your data? See the representation of people that are Black. See how they're progressing in your organization. Just look at the leadership. You don't even have to see the data. There is an absence of Black people in certain leadership roles. What are you doing to make that change? What are you doing to promote people? And I've been talking to a lot of organizations about shifting from the ideology of unconscious bias to conscious leadership. Mm-hmm. Conscious leadership means that you're aware of what you're saying, you're aware of the people that you're communicating to, you are actively listening to the issues that are facing them, and you are not listening to challenge, but you're listening to learn and build your understanding. And then you are going to go on and do your own learning for yourself. So that's a conversation I'm having with leaders, because I've said fundamentally a lot of big organizations are led by white men, and you are the allies in the conversation. It's not just a Black issue. It's the same thing when you're talking about gender. You can't just have women in the room. You have to have everybody. And you really have to be more confident in that. I said to people, find out where you are on the 3 pillars. Is it that you've never been close to the issue before? Is it that you've been close to it but you're not quite sure? Or is it that you're close to it and you're still trying to work out language and terminology? Wherever you are as a leader, and understanding where you sit on those pillars will help you on your journey and help you understand where you need to go, and also help you in leading your businesses to drive the change. But also, I say to businesses as well, and leaders and everyone, when you're overseeing membership in sectors of industry, use your voice to change your membership, to change your sectors. We keep on hearing people say, well, construction is white, this industry is white, but what are you doing to change it more? What are you doing to change more? And for us, the CBI, is how we use our voice. We use the campaign to drive that message, but also I work very closely with leaders as well to help them, train them, be more comfortable. Like I said, in saying Black, it's not a weird term. It's a normal term. I am Black. I say to people, I am Black, and we laugh about it because I'm just like, it's not normalized the conversation. So it becomes less of you being uncomfortable. And actually, I say to everyone, be uncomfortable. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable is part of the conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
And so for us, the CBI is really about really making sure everyone feels comfortable in that. So I've been taking them along the journey, training them, helping them feel more comfortable, that when they go out to businesses, whether it's for an event or whether it's for a committee or council, whether you're trying to do something good in an industry, that you are really thinking about the groups of people, but also you're thinking about Black people. Because we're getting to a year from George Floyd's killing. And I'm going to ask businesses, what have you done in that year? And that's going to be a true test of the journey ahead. Ask that same question 6 months on. What are you doing? What are you what needs to now get done? Because if you've listened now, where's the action? So I say to people, and this is my final point, given the ability to be aware, how are you going from awareness to action to awareness to analysis to action to advocacy? Because we need you to be advocates in that journey. And that's just really important when we're talking about Black inclusion, but also celebrating and really pushing for greater change.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Ife. And again, it's raised some questions and some debate in the chat box as well. And what I will say is already, because I'm just conscious of the time now, that there's a lot of questions coming through, and what we are going to do as an organisation as well is take these questions and actually use them to spark some of the debate during Black Inclusion Week as well. So just keep on throwing those questions through. We may not get to answer them all, but please trust me, we see all of the questions and we will use them as part of our agenda as well for Black Inclusion Week. Maggie, now I know that you've been a senior people professional for over 20 years, but you'd never ever guess it. But so why is this important to you as a people person?
Thank you very, very, very much, Simon, for the very kind words. I definitely feel it. But I would say that as a people professional, this conversation is absolutely vital, and I note from the chat that a lot of people professionals are on the call. So welcome to you all. I would say that my role as a people leader is to support the organisation, to encourage and engage their people so that they can win. That's ultimately why we're here as people professionals, isn't it? Helping the organisation win through their people and how they treat their people. We also know it to be true that for organisations to really get the best out of their people, they need to be inclusive. Really great organizations that we trust, so McKinsey, PwC, EY, Accenture, so many of them have told us time and time again, inclusive organizations win, inclusive leadership teams, they bring better bottom line results, they win better, they have better innovation. So inclusion makes absolute sense to every single organization. What we also know, and Ife touched on it, but I think even before the death of George Floyd, many of us knew that unfortunately there are people within organizations, groups which are underrepresented, they don't feel as engaged, they feel like they have to mask who they are. And that is very, very true for Black people in many organizations. Look at your data, examine it, as Ife said in her 4 A's, which I really love, by the way, Ife, but look at your data and analyze it. It'll tell you that there are some clear discrepancies. And that's why this conversation is really important. If you have a group of people left behind in your organization, if you have a group of people who are not encouraged, who aren't living up to their best ability, who aren't delivering for you in the way that they could, you're not going to win. You're not going to win in the same way. We know that intrinsically as people. If you don't feel great, you're not going to necessarily perform. But we also know that for those who need the data and the facts to show you, we've known year in year. And then there are also the reasons that Ife talked about. The conversation about race is difficult for a lot of people, completely understand why. So how do we make that a lot easier and make that more comfortable? Black Inclusion Week is about that. People don't know how to start the conversation. So again, Black Inclusion Week is a beautiful way to start that. Paul Walker just talked about the fact that he's introduced his attendance today in his organization. So I'm sure that has sparked conversations in your organization about, oh, where do we stand on this? What are the kind of things that we need to do? So Black Inclusion Week is a beautiful vehicle to make all of these things happen. And then on top of that, I would say a big part of it is that, as Ife said, it's about action as well, isn't it? Beautiful we're talking about it, let's keep doing that. But also, what are the actions? So Black Inclusion Week is also about talking about what great organizations are doing at the moment, but also giving other organizations some hints and tips where to start, how to consider things. So conversation, action, and all the beautiful things in between is why Black Inclusion Week is important for people professionals.
That's brilliant, Aggie. And again, you know, we've seen so many questions about, you know, what do we do? How do we start this? You know, so I think it's just the simplicity of that as well. And we'll try and touch on that a bit later on as well. Paul Duhaney, I'm really excited to meet you because I've heard about your organisation, and obviously since talking to you, I've gone on and had a look to find out a bit more about it. You're the artistic director of the UK's largest celebration of African and Caribbean music and culture. Why is it important to you? And can you tell us a bit more about your project, My 67 Minutes, as well, please?
Yeah, it's very important to me. I mean, you know, as a Black-led organisation, we've been around for like best part of 28 years. And we feel that, you know, there's been a lot of barriers been put in our way in terms of moving forward. We've seen other organisations come in from nowhere and get, you know, 3-4 times as much funding as us. And it got to a stage in, I think it was May 2019, where I started to ask questions of people and challenge them. I was going to events in the Northwest, award ceremonies, you know, various events, and in terms of Black arts organisations, there was just like we seem to be the only ones most of the time, and there seemed to be more Black staff than there were actually taking part in the events, you know, and it really needed to change. And I started asking that question in May 2019, and I didn't really get any answers. You know, I won't name names, but I contacted a lot of people and I started asking these questions. So when the situation came about last year, when you know, the world changed and started to listen, I was quite happy because it meant that, you know, I wasn't doing it alone anymore. I had, you know, allies and people who were asking the same questions, and it didn't come across as me just being, you know, having a chip on my shoulder, or the usual connotations that are put to people that question things. So as well as the festival, I'm also involved in a campaign called Mandela 8. And Mandela 8 is also based in Liverpool. It's a charitable organisation that was set up about 6 years ago by our chair, Sonia Bassi, and a local guy called Stephen Enzi, who works for an organisation called Tiber, does a lot of brilliant work with young people. And I love what the whole thing was about, and I've been on the board and steering group for around 4 years now. Its initial vision was to see a permanent memorial that functions as a unique performance space, conversation and contemplation space established in Prince's Park in Liverpool, which is a local park in Toxteth, Liverpool. And it's to commemorate and pursue the legacy of Nelson Mandela's outstanding achievement for humanity that we all recognise. Due to the pandemic, that's going to probably be delayed now, and the memorial won't be ready to probably around 2022, summer of 22. But fast forward to the present day, and the charity has blossomed not only into trying to create this memorial, but we're dedicated, or have been dedicated, to empowering our community by creating opportunities, supporting the underprivileged, helping young people who have been excluded from school to reassimilate in society via our Roots and Wings project. And we've even assisted with, helping to create local infrastructure around the park and in the community, like the Princess Park steps scheme that's recently been completed. So why Mandela and why Liverpool? I don't know if people know, but Mandela was fondly known, or has a big relationship with Liverpool due to, apartheid and community activists, unions and city coming together to support the Free Nelson Mandela campaign that took part in the 70s and 80s. So Liverpool is built on a strong political and social values and has experienced oppression, not on the scale obviously in South Africa, but there was an awareness there of the brutality that happened there, and the people of Liverpool have sort of united to get behind that. And actually Nelson Mandela was gifted the freedom of the city in Liverpool in 1994. And we also had a civic reception in 20 years later in 2014. We've had various fundraising events supported by Liverpool City Council. Mandela's daughter, Dr. Mackie Mandela, and the granddaughter, Takwini, visited Liverpool last year along with Prince Charles to support the campaign. Patrons, the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold from Liverpool Football Club, Lord Peter Hayne. So the campaign's really got momentum over the years. It was, it was a really small little thing, but just like the festival, it's built over a number of years and got momentum. But as part of it, I'm going on a bit here, so I'm trying to condense it for you. But as part of the campaign, the group visited South Africa, and we found out, to cut a long story short, about an event that happens called My 67 Minutes. So what My 67 Minutes is Nelson Mandela's fight for justice began in 1942. And for 67 tireless years, he continued to fight social justice and human rights. And the My 67 Minutes program is designed to enable you as an individual, collectively, or as part of a group or organization to give 67 minutes of your day for 1 minute. That's 1 minute for every year to help someone else, ideally on Mandela Day or in that week. The pilot event in 2019 was very successful, with a plethora of city businesses, organisations and schools getting involved via giving, producing food banks, cake making, gardening, litter picking and so much more. We visited around the city and see what people were doing. We even had the city's monuments lit up in yellow to support the day. And due to the success of the event, after debriefing, we said that this is something that could be rolled out nationally. Why can't it? I think the beauty of it, I was saying before, is that it doesn't cost anything to be involved. We have resource packs that are available on the website, and all you have to do is download the various resource packs, and you can find ways to get involved. So although the event didn't take place last year in its usual form, there was obviously, we talked about earlier, the significant world events reinforcing the need for us to learn more about diversity of our society and celebrate each other for our differences and contributions that we make. So in recognition of last year's world events, our collaboration with the National Probation Service, this year's programme will start in March and will also include Black Inclusion Week on the 10th to 16th of May, 10th to 16th of May. And culminating in Mandela Week, the 12th to 18th of July, and Mandela Day on the 18th of July, which is Mandela's birthday. So people can find out more about this and download the resource packs. Go to mandela8.org.uk and then go to My 67 Minutes, and all the info is there of how you can get involved.
You literally just answered the question I was gonna fire at you there. How people can find out. Do you just want to read those out again, where people can find out more information about it? So
just go to www.mandela8.org.uk. I'll put it in the chat for you.
Brilliant.
So people can directly get information for that.
Thank you very much indeed, Paul. And I just wanted to add a couple of just a quick perspective. What it means to me and why it's so important to me. First of all, I'm really, really proud to work for a company like Auto Trader, and we have been on a journey over the past 4 or 5 years, and it continues. And especially with all the events last year, it sort of just raised, you know, my pride in the company, because we were able as a company to be able to support initiatives and events like this, be very, very vocal about our support. And I think, and touching what I think it was Ife who said it before, about having those uncomfortable conversations within our organization to create change. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so pleased that Autotrader are continuing to join initiatives like this. But also as a father, so I am a father, and I have a daughter who is in her mid-20s, and a son who is 22. And they were brought up in South London. They were brought up in Croydon. So they grew up in a very, very, very diverse community. And in some ways, it seemed quite easy for them to be able to embrace their Black heritage. So my family was just around the corner, and they grew up with their family, etc. And I was very proud last year when my daughter, she is a designer, and she actually created the Black Lives Matter logo. So she designed the Black Lives Matter logo that went on to all the Premiership players. So her partner is a professional footballer, and he was one of the driving forces of getting that. So I knew that, you know, as a proud father, proud Black father, seeing that, I knew that, you know, I've done all right there. But I am also now the father of 7-month-old twins, and my lovely little boys. We live in Scotland. We live in the countryside in Scotland, and it's even more important for me now to keep up my education so that I can actually work with my sons, because they don't have as much diversity around here. We don't have as much easy access to my side of the family as well. So this is why initiatives like this just keep me striving to be the best father that I can be, and making sure that my 2 little boys continue to grow up and be very, very proud of the Black side of their family as well. So thank you for your stories there. I'm just conscious again of the time, so I'm just going to rattle through a few more questions now, and if we could just have some quick answers to these as well. But Aggie, a question that was being fired at me quite a bit as well. Why is Black Inclusion Week focusing on the Black experience and not just race?
Sure. Really, really good question. And I would say that the race conversation is very important. You know, absolutely. I'm not going to suggest that we stop that conversation. But then I'm going to, first of all, take us back to the data before I give my answer. So let's go back to the data. The data tells us that in the UK, the experiences for Black people are different. If you look at it from a race point of view, it doesn't look amazing, but it looks better when you sort of amalgamate everything. When you sort of drill down to the Black experience, the data tells us that the outcomes are worse. They're worse for our children in schools in terms of how they're treated, in terms of how they're disciplined for the same infractions as potentially a white child. They're worse for Black people when it comes to the workplace in terms of microaggressions, comments about your hair. You know, if you look at leadership teams, you will see that representation for different parts of BAME are better than they are for Black people. When you look at health and the outcomes for women giving birth, the outcomes in terms of how doctors treat people, the medication that's given to them for the same ailments, the outcomes are worse for Black people. So it's the media, I can't forget the media. There's a whole conversation going on at the moment. I'm not going to go there necessarily because we know what's happening there. But even if you look at footballers, you brought up footballers, didn't you, Simon?
Yeah.
They all play football, they all score goals, they kick a ball, they do great things and they entertain people, brilliant. But if you look at things such as, oh, this white footballer's bought a house for his mum, isn't that amazing? How lovely is he? Same thing happens, a Black man buys a house for his mother, spends the same, oh, he's being extravagant, he's being, you know, all these things, they're all in front of us.
And my son-in-law has been on the receiving end of that, so trust me, I'm aware of all of that.
There you go, there you go. So I guess essentially, just to sort of wrap up what I'm saying, there are different issues, I would suggest deeper issues that happen in the Black experience. So therefore a different experience, a different conversation is required. Hence Black Inclusion Week, hence Black Leaders.
Absolutely, well said. Thank you very much indeed, Aggie. So Ife, a couple of questions have come through and they're founded around tick box exercises. So Samuel Alabi has just said, is there a line for businesses between doing the work for good compared to ticking a box? And then there's also a secondary question which has come from Zara, which says, how do you approach someone to have these questions if you work in an institutionally racist environment? So if you could tackle the tick box conversation first, and then how you would get people to start raising these questions in an institutionally racist environment.
Well, that's heavy. I think with the tick box exercise, one of the things I've said to businesses is that before an individual even discloses whatever race they are, I mean, first of all, they look a different shade to you, but they will need to be able to trust you. And this is why you can't make these things a tick box exercise. It's a long journey. It's a journey of trust. It's a journey of feeling that they belong. And I say to business leaders to think about how they're doing that. And it boils down to your everyday decision-making process, whether people feel that it's inclusive or not. And then when you want to start talking about things about race, is he Black? You then have to think, how has all of those decisions affected people's trust in me supporting a Black individual to progress in the organization as well? And I say to people, just think about the wider picture. It becomes less of a tick box exercise when you build a commitment around it, when you embed it into your business strategy, when you think about how this affects your staff. Don't say that you want a diverse staff base if you're not going to focus on how you can help nurture them to progress, to feel included, and to feel that there's equal opportunity and access. That's how it becomes less of a tick box exercise. When people start to see the actions that follow, it shows the commitment that people care. And then on the question around how to navigate it when it's an institutionally racist environment, interesting enough, I had a conversation with someone the other day where the organization had said that they would want someone to do D&I, but then when they were trying to ask the questions, they were like, oh, don't ask that. Don't want that. Let's not do that. And I said to them, one of the things that's really important when you are trying to engage your business and leaders in this conversation is the language and the approach. Because one thing I learned very early on when I set up the race network at the CBI was where you may not have the language or approach to do it, somebody else might have. And that's why I always talk a lot about a collective voice. Find different voices in your community, in your organization that can help you work together. And as in that conversation as well, never go to a board meeting unprepared. Have people that you've spoken to in advance before that, so you can also be that voice for you in those meetings. There are one or two people that will always have your ear. People talk about gender because it's a softer issue. When they talk about race, they automatically, oh, it's too much. It's too much. You want to talk about Black? It's like, oh, another layer of complexity. You have to make it more palatable for people. Not that you're diluting the conversation, the content of what you're trying to do, but you think about how you're going to. One of the things my mentor always said is, position is important. And if you're in a meeting to talk to your leaders about what they need to do to tackle race and racism, by virtue of you being in that room, you should be in that room. And what you do now is how you position your conversation to be able to influence and persuade. You always have naysayers, you always have people that will challenge you. Don't be defensive. Make sure that you're clear on what you want to do. Come up with solutions and follow up. That's how you do it. When it's really difficult, I say to people, be mindful of the organizations that you're going to. My mentor also said to me, if you really want to progress, look out for progressive organizations. Know if your role is there to challenge, and be the voice to challenge and be that voice to make a difference, but also have a collective voice because it can be quite exhausting. But also know the kind of organizations you're going to work into and whether they will nurture you and build you to be the best person that you can be, or whether it will feel like an organization where it's chipping at you and you don't feel like you're going to thrive here. Because when organizations say that they want you to belong and to thrive, you need to hold them to account to that as well. Because if they don't and you don't feel that way, that's you have to use your voice and people stop being scared to speak up and actually use your voice to challenge. I say to people, I'm not scared because I know that what I'm saying is correct, but also I'm doing the work that you asked me to do. So just have that in mind as well when you're having those conversations. Positioning, awareness, and just knowing how to frame the conversation when you're having it and build your stakeholders.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Ife. And if anybody is having those or finds themselves in that kind of situation as well, hopefully now you've surrounded yourself, you've found people who are doing things at different stages of their journey as well. So please make sure that you embrace and use the community now that you've joined as well, and organizations like the CBI as well. So thank you very much. Just a reminder as well, we've got so many questions, so many great comments. If you can, please let everybody on social media know that you are the lucky ones joining in here. Please use the hashtag Black Inclusion Week and make sure that you are following, if you haven't already done so, at Black Leaders Net. We're coming to the end of it, but I want to get these couple of questions in. Paul, Mr. Walker, sir, last year after the tragic events that unfolded with George Floyd, Black inclusion was on everybody's agenda. As we say, was it a tick box? We don't know. But how do we keep that conversation going through 2021?
Yeah, I thought Ife said it very well. You know, we do have so much to distract us that I think it would be wrong to say that that's easy. The guy died, father. He was the same age as me, and he died because of the colour of his skin. He didn't need to die, and I think we keep the conversation going by the little things. The little things are the big things. So every single conversation, every social media post you mentioned, every share, all those in support of Black Inclusion Week or an issue in your organisation will keep it going. And I think, you know, I'm speaking to the audience there that are perhaps considering allyship, feeling that they can do something. People like me, pick something and be the voice in your organisation. There's a cliche that we're the average of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with. I think, you know, as a white ally, you got to up your average. You got to get out there and get involved and understand. And so ask questions about Black Inclusion Week. Hold a discussion in your workplace about what it means. Get outside your peer group. Do your homework. Educate yourself. And then I think, you know, Paul's My 67 Minutes is something that I've been introduced to. You can use that. It's perfectly okay to ally, to show up and to talk about the issues on a regular basis. And I think that's the only way you keep the conversation going. Because disastrously, there'll be another event, right? We know. And so that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Paul, as well. And I think you're a perfect example of an ally, because, you know, one of the things that I've always said about allies is yes, talk to other people, talk to people from whatever, you know, the section is that you want to be an ally for, but do your education yourself. Don't just rely on them. You can see that you're doing it. So again, thank you so much indeed, Paul. Paul Dehaney, now, I know that you're engaged with the community and you work with the community. How do we promote Black inclusion? Because I've seen already in some of the comments, there's a lot of people from the arts, for example, in there. How do we promote Black inclusion throughout the UK and engage with communities across all regions? If we could have a quick answer from you, please.
You trying to say my answers are long?
I just don't want to get a kicking from the boss, Paul, so I'm trying to keep it all tight.
Yeah, I can't keep it quick. I mean, it's a bit of a two-part question, but in terms of Black inclusion throughout the UK, I mean, one of the systems that we put in place recently, we were interviewing for a post for Mandela 8, and we were like, you know, how are we going to make sure that we receive applications from the Black community? So after some discussions, we were thinking, how can we put some sort of system in place? So what we did, we implemented a system where the people that were receiving and checking the applications, there was Black representation in that part of the system. In the interview panel, there was Black people on the interview panel who were interviewing. And most importantly, you know, there was only one job we could give, but, you know, there was probably about another 8 people that narrowly missed out. So give them verbal feedback, let them know where they went wrong in the application process, to give them confidence. Because what I've noticed in the Black community, particularly Liverpool, is a job comes out and it's almost like they say, it's not worth applying as I won't even get an interview. And as time goes on, people lose confidence, and we need to rebuild that confidence. So I know people might say, oh, are you giving them special treatment by giving them feedback? No, you know, there might be one little reason where they went wrong in the interview, where, you know, had they got the necessary feedback next time they came round, they could possibly have got that job. And in terms of engaging with community, of course, it's not always possible for an all-white employer to engage with the Black community and do all those systems that I said, but there are a lot of organisations who can act as, you know, bridging organisations, or, you know, why not somewhere else from another company who people can look up to and see, and as an example of something they can be in the future. You know, I heard a stat the other day that, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was told that only 7% of Black people in the senior management positions at board level in the UK, which has a Black population of 13%. So, you know, there's something wrong as to why that's not happening. And, you know, the people that are successful, like you know, the people who are on this panel, you know, we need to be more visible so that we can act as kind of role models for bringing these people through in the future.
Oh, absolutely, Paul. And you know, people like you going out and inspiring, you know, that's what we need to do. That's what we need keep on needing to do as well. And as somebody who sat again at Auto Trade, I've just sat through yesterday afternoon a whole bunch of blind applications for our graduate scheme as well. And it's just been so refreshing, actually, just to read who they are without any preconceptions of photographs, of names or anything. Just read what they think about the job application itself as well. So again, you know, and we'll provide feedback to them as well if they don't actually get offered the role. But so important what you just mentioned there. Aggie, finally, the final question goes to yourself. So obviously the theme for Black Inclusion Week is Be the Change. What do you do? And I know how passionate you are about this, so you're going to be a really, really good example. What do you do to be the change?
Sure. So I think Be the Change as a concept, and certainly the way we're leading with it for Black Inclusion Week, it starts with you as an individual. I noticed in the chat someone called Charlotte. Hi, Charlotte. Thank you for contributing. Said something along the lines of, I'm just an admin. What can I do? What I'll first say to you, Charlotte, which somebody else also said, please drop the just. You know, there's no such thing as just a this or just a this. You have a role in your organization, which is important. Equally, you have a role in your community, in your family, in your friendship group. And that's where I think our Be the Change needs to start. Challenge yourselves, your thinking. Even as a Black woman, I am prone to bias. I am prone to potentially discriminating against someone. So I need to constantly challenge myself as an individual. And I invite everybody else to do the same in your context. Challenge yourself and be that voice. Use your voice to speak to your friendship group. They trust you. They know you. They trust you. They're more likely to hear you than someone who's completely different to them. Speak to your family. When you hear potentially a child in your family group saying the wrong thing, have a chat with them and help them understand why that isn't helpful. If you hear your parents, your grandparents, whoever, have use your voice to speak to them, and all those things, they lead to loosening minds. You know, I always talk about loosening minds, not trying to change everybody's mind, but all those things make a difference, and people will start to sort of think about it. So we all have a platform, we all have a sphere of influence. Let's use that.
Thank you, Aggie. And I know that we're all going to be the change. And as you could probably hear as well, someone's obviously ringing me up to find out how they can be the change as well. So apologies if you could hear the phone going off in the background. Listen, thank you again to our wonderful panelists, to our Pauls, Dehaney and Mr. Walker, to Ife. Again, so good to have an organisation like the CBI on board and spoke such great words. And as always, Aggie, it's just such a pleasure hearing from you as well. So thank you so much. And I know that there are going to be so many questions that are going to be fired at you as well and put to you. So please do go and have a look at the chat if you haven't already done so. And again, it's just inspired so much comments that we again will use for Black Inclusion Week. So thank you very much indeed for joining our panel. As I mentioned, I actually just took a quick look at a chance to have a look at some of the tweets. And we've had a massive response on social media as well. So can you please make sure you keep tweeting us and letting everybody know what's going on at Black Leaders Net. If you haven't already followed, that's at Black Leaders Net, and use the hashtag Black Inclusion Week. Now, our final speaker has risen quickly to the top as a corporate communicator, having been talent spotted for rapid promotion at every company she has worked for. To tell you more about how you can get involved with Black Inclusion Week, please welcome Jennifer Thomas. Jennifer, are you there? I can see you.
Yeah, hello. Thank you, Simon, for that introduction. Right, I'm just going to share my screen. And Okay, hopefully is that all visible? Can you see that?
Yeah, can see that.
Yep. Okay, brilliant. Right, well, hello everybody, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. What I will say probably as we're introducing all these wonderful Black leaders that we've got is to remember how successful we are as individuals and as a collective. So I think if there's anything we've showcased today is that there are talented, successful Black people out there, and I'm sure many more who are listening to this webinar today. So just to kind of recap and bring together some of the reflections, the context, and the views of what we're trying to do around Black Inclusion Week. And Cecilia put this slide up at the beginning of this session. And it's really, really important that you already heard and talked about acknowledging, celebrating Black people, Black leaders, our history. Yes, that's all going to be part of Black Inclusion Week, but actually it's the be the change. We need the action. And again, as we heard really well from Paul Walker, thinking about that allyship, thinking about how it goes from the individual to the organization, to the society, to the friendship groups, through to family. We all have a role to play in Be the Change, and that's the outcome we're looking for this week, for the rest of the year, through to months and centuries. That's what we actually need, and that's what we're asking you to do. So I'm just going to quickly go through a few examples. And again, as Cecilia outlined, we've got our challenge, collaborate, and communicate. And what we're going to be doing as a group is we will be pulling together a toolkit to give you ideas, access different activities and things that you can do along the way. And I'll tell you at the end, you know, where you can go on the website, and eventually all that content will be there for you. But let's just think about challenge for a minute. And we have heard some great ways to challenge already. And I think here, again, this is just an example, that some examples we've got on the slide. We already heard about from Paul about my 67 minutes. What I would say about community and volunteering is many individuals and many organizations have some sort of community program enabling employees to volunteer. Lots of individuals are really passionate about volunteering within their community. Our challenge banner here is about, think to yourself, where are you putting some of that time and energy? And could you extrapolate that to the Black community if you're not already doing so? Could your organization create something, become part of the initiative? We've given you a really powerful and easy way to do it today, my 67 minutes, which when you really think about 67 minutes of our time is absolutely nothing, and we could all do that. But go and look for things, you know, if you want to do that and more. Look for things that are relevant in your local community, and for the organizations out there, thinking through what your employees can connect with. So where you're based, where you operate, it's really impactful to be able to show what you can do there. When we look at how we sort of live, spend our money, spend our time, Aggie talked about the individual challenge of when you hear something that doesn't feel right, when you experience something that you can sort of feel it in your belly, doesn't feel right. We need to speak up. So this whole idea of sharing and our voice can't stop last summer. It's got to be a continuum. So we need to feel empowered. We need to feel confident to be able to do that in whatever context we are, wherever you may sit in your organization, whoever you're with, friends or family. That's really important. And when we think the power of the pound, the power of where we spend our money, where we invest, for organizations, looking at your supply chain and thinking about that through a diversity lens. How many Black businesses do you even know about or support? There are ways that we can do this through the economy of what we do, and the economy also equals power. So I challenge you to, if you're not the person who makes that decision in your organization, there's nothing stopping you from finding out how those decisions get made and probably amplifying and thinking about how you can do things differently. So lots of ways to challenge, and I'm sure you'll have some great reflection after the webinar today. So about collaboration. One of the things that I think we've all come to really, really acknowledge and realize is it's not going to be just one person who does this. We need a collective. We need a collective, and we need the collective throughout different aspects of our infrastructure in the UK, throughout different aspects of our organizations, throughout different aspects of our personal lives. So this idea of collaboration doesn't have to necessarily equal big partnerships. That could be great as well. But you can look at different things you can do through Black inclusion. Host an event, get that conversation going. Maybe you've done lots of that with a D&I lens, but you've never done it with a lens of the Black community and the Black people. That could be a step forward for you. So I encourage you to think about that. When we think about mentorship, how we bring people with us, how do we bring Black people through our organization, through talent? How do we support them in the community? How do we support young Black people? These are all ideas that, again, you can explore as an individual or as at an organizational level, and really think about what does your mentorship look like of the Black community. And I've already talked about Black organizations from a pound and investment point of view, but who could you partner with? Sometimes we don't hold all the knowledge and we can't, again, do things by ourselves, but we can look at other organizations. Paul's brought a great one for us today, Mandela 8. There are lots of organizations out there that we can connect with to help facilitate this agenda. And lastly, we've got communicate. And yes, the power of the voice, I will continue to say. And, you know, as we've outlined in that lovely triangle, it's all a bit cyclical. So none of these things can stand on their own, but we need to keep amplifying. So yes, we need to talk. Yes, we need to come together. We definitely need action, but we need to continually share that, continually speak up, amplify where we can, really show your support. And I think actually this is where allyship could be its most powerful. What I would say is, you know, for those outside of the Black community looking and trying to figure out how you can support and help, and we've had lots of questions in today, what I would say to you is you don't need permission. You don't need permission to do any of this. What we need is proactivity. So we need you to be curious. We need you to think outside the box. We need you to start the conversation sometimes. And I know for some of my lovely Black people in my community, we've all been through the experience of feeling a bit tired, feeling a bit weary, feeling like it's all on our shoulders to create this change. We can't do it on our own, because if we could, we would have already. So it actually will take a collective, and we all need to speak up, we all need to support, and we all need to amplify. So once again, you can see the website link there at the bottom of the slide. Please go to blackinclusionweek.com. At the moment, you can sign up to register. So register your interest in the week, of which I hope there'll be lots of interest after this. And then we will get in touch with you once you're on our mailing list. You will know about all the events going on. From today, go back to your organizations, get them interested, start thinking about what you can do. You've got plenty of time to plan. And the thing is, we really want this to be a national event. And I think that's really important. In the weird virtual world that we're in, that actually makes this a lot easier. So you can join things from wherever you are, because it will all be virtual. You can create what is relevant for your area, your community, your organization. And actually, it's only then we'll get that true collaboration. We'll be able to look holistically across the country. And that's where we'll get that true collective action. And that's it for me. I'll hand back to you, Simon.
Thank you, Jennifer. A brilliant way to close out what has been a wonderful session. So thank you very much indeed. I'm not sure about you, but I've actually been blown away by the dynamic, passionate speeches that have taken place today. So thank you very much indeed to all of our outstanding speakers and panelists for sharing your knowledge. And I also want to say a big thank you as well to the team behind the scenes who have worked so hard to put on this morning's event in the lead up to the Black Inclusion Week. So to Paul, to Emma, to Tez, everybody else involved with it as well. So thank you very much indeed. On behalf of the Black leaders and inclusive companies, thank you for taking your time to be with us this morning. I'm sure you'll agree it has really been inspiring, captivating, and most of all, eye-opening. I hope we've given you a taster of what is to come, and that everyone will take something valuable away from today's session as we begin our countdown, our 50-day countdown to Black Inclusion Week. There has never been a more important time to keep motivated and to press for progress within the field of Black inclusion. And while we know that change won't happen overnight, the good news is that across the world, people like yourselves are making positive gains day by day, fueled by campaigns such as Black Inclusion Week. We want to see lots of organisations holding their own events between the 10th and the 16th of May. So please check out blackleaders.co.uk. That's blackleaders.co.uk for more information on upcoming events and projects. And we'll also be sending out logos tomorrow as well for you to use on social media. I know that there were lots of questions about will the slides be made available, and the slides will be made available for you to go on if you haven't managed to capture all of the information today as well. So finally, together, let's all be tenacious in challenging inequality. Collectively, we can all help create an inclusive world. Let's keep the conversation going, and remember, be the change that you wish to see. From myself, Simon Hosanna, thank you and good afternoon.